Oh my God, this is huge. It's just very, very big. Oh, hi there. Welcome to Madrassa, your favorite online school. My name is Sab. Nice to meet you. This is big, right? Or is it just very big? Or maybe huge? What do you think? Is it big? Is it very big? Or is it just huge? Think about it for a second. We're going to find out the answer by the end of this lesson because in today's lesson, we are going to be talking about modifiers. Does it ring any bell? Is something clicking here? Well, before we start, I would like to refresh your memory on adjectives. In general, what is an adjective? Where do I place it in the sentence and how does it function? So, are you ready? Let's go. Adjectives. What is an adjective? An adjective describes a noun. So when I say noun, I mean a person, someone's personality. It could be any object, a car, or type of food, or even some famous places or landmarks. An adjective gives more information about the noun we're describing. And it helps specify the noun. So when we use an adjective to describe a noun, we are making the noun more specific by giving more information about the noun. Let's take a look at an example. London is a modern city. This is a picture that represents the city of London. So we are describing the city of London being modern. So modern is the adjective. Let's take a look at more examples to understand better. The Eiffel Tower is a tall building. Everyone knows the Eiffel Tower, right? It's in France. And it's really, really tall, which is something we are going to talk about in a few minutes. Next example. Jenny bought a new car. Jenny bought a new car. We're describing the car that Jenny bought, and the car is new. So new is the adjective. Next example. The tourists took a red bus. The tourists took a red bus. What are we describing here? Are we describing the tourists? Or are we describing the bus? Awesome, we're describing the bus. And the bus is red. Red is a color, so the adjective is the color red. The last example. Chris met people on his trip to London. Chris met friendly people on his trip to London. Who are we describing here? Are we describing Chris, or the people, or the trip? Think about it for a second. Correct. We're describing the people from London. So Chris met friendly people on his trip to London. And the people are friendly. So we are describing the personality of the people that Chris met on his trip to London. I would like you to take a look at the words underlined and the words that are written in bold. So we have tall, new, took, sorry, this was supposed to be red, and friendly, okay? So if you take a look, you will find out that the adjective comes before the noun we are describing. So this is actually the placement of the adjectives. It always comes before the noun. Well, it generally comes before the noun we are describing. Depending on the language you're speaking, but most of the time in English, we always put the adjective before the noun. You can't put the adjective after the noun. So we can't say car new or bus red, or people friendly, or building tall, okay? It just doesn't make any sense. So the adjective always comes before the noun we're describing, okay? Let's take a look at the next slide. Again, this is what we're here for. Modifiers. So what are modifiers? The first two modifiers are extremely and quite. Not quiet, like shh, but quite is a modifier. Quiet is another adjective, and it has a total different use. The next modifiers are really and very, okay? And they are quite the same, by the way. Let's take a look at examples. The very first example, please do take a look at the picture. Ferrari is an expensive car. Ferrari is an expensive car. Yes, it is expensive, and it is a beautiful car. I'm pretty sure no one can afford it. Well, not everyone can. So, Ferrari is an expensive car. Where is the adjective here? Very good. Expensive. So we are describing the car being expensive, meaning we can't afford it. Okay? It costs a lot of money. If I want to use the same adjective, but I want to make it more intense, I want to give it more meaning, what would I say? Ferrari is an extremely expensive car. Ferrari is an extremely expensive car. So extremely here is the modifier. What did I just do here? I just added extremely, which is a modifier, to modify the degree of the expensivity, to modify the degree of the adjective, which is expensive. So here, I'm actually putting more meaning to it. I'm putting more intensity, more flavor, more power. The adjective now is becoming stronger, okay? So Ferrari is an extremely expensive car. And yes, it is in real life. Let's take a look at the next slide. I believe everyone knows who Shakira is. I'm not the only one, right? So, Shakira sings well. Shakira sings well. So I'm describing Shakira's singing abilities. She's a great singer. I love Shakira, by the way. So the adjective here is well. The question is, I want to make this adjective stronger. I want to give it more power, more intensity, more flavor. I want to add more emphasis to this adjective. So which modifier am I going to use here? Is it very, or really, or quite, or extremely? Think about it for a second. Which modifier am I going to use with the adjective well? Are you really thinking about it? Let's see if you guessed it right. So the answer is Shakira sings, I'm still giving you time to think, is quite well, okay? So Shakira sings quite well. What do I mean by quite here? Now quite here means completely, okay? So I can say Shakira sings really well, or Shakira sings pretty well. But I can also say Shakira sings quite well. So quite here is to an extent, to a degree, which means completely, because she's a perfect singer. Let's take a look at another example. Do you know this place? What can you tell me about this place? This is actually in New York City, and it's the One Times Square building. Take a look at it. How would you describe the One Times Square building? Is it tall? Is it huge? Is it big? Is it small? 1 times square is big. Now you can describe it any way you want to, okay? I just wanted to use some basic adjectives today. So 1 times square is big. Now, the same question I asked you earlier, which modifier am I going to use to modify the adjective big? Because if I take a look at the 1 times square, I mean, from the screen, it looks big. But trust me, if you take a look at it, a closer look in real life, it's just too big. It's huge. So, which modifier do you think modifies this adjective best? Are you really thinking about it? Try to take a guess. I'm still going to give you time. So, which modifier goes here? Is it really? Is it very? Is it quite big or extremely? You can just say it's very big with an exclamation like, oh my God, it's very big. Remember the example earlier? This TV is very big. So the 1 times square is very big. This is pretty self-explanatory. Everyone knows Mr. Bean. He's pretty famous. So we're going to do the same thing. Mr. Bean is funny. Funny here is the adjective that best describes Mr. Bean because he's really funny. Oh, I just gave you guys the question. I'm sorry, the answer. So, which modifier best modifies the adjective funny? Is it really? Is it extremely? Is it very? Think about it for a second. Are you thinking about it? Really. So, Mr. Bean is really funny. I would like to add something really important. So, you can use really and very, like they are somehow similar, so you can use both of them. You can say, Mr. Bean is very funny, and it will still mean the same thing, okay? So, really and very, they are kind of from the same category, okay? So, on to the next slide. So, this is just a quick recap of the things that we talked about. Modifiers are used to add more meaning to adjectives. But please do take a look at the word between brackets here. It says gradable adjectives, which is what we're going to talk about. There are 2 types of adjectives, okay? The gradable ones, which are also called the simple adjectives or basic adjectives like small, like cold, okay, or old. So modifiers are only used with those kinds of adjectives. Here's an example, very busy. I'm very busy, or my schedule is very busy. So busy is a basic adjective, but if I want to add more meaning to the adjective, I would use very to modify it, okay? The next is extremely difficult. For example, today's test was very difficult, or today's test was extremely difficult. So I'm adding more degree to the difficulty of the test. One more. Modifiers are placed directly in front of the adjective. So yes, the placement of the modifier always comes in front of the adjective. So we can't say busy very or difficult extremely, okay? It's always modifier plus adjective. What kind of adjective? Gradable adjective, okay? A basic adjective. So, let's get back. Strong adjectives, also known as extreme adjectives. Okay, what is an extreme adjective? Let's find out. So, strong adjectives or extreme adjectives, they can't be followed by modifiers. Okay, we can't add extremely, very, really, okay, to the strong adjectives. Here's an example: very huge or extremely huge. Remember the TV example? We just can't say this TV is very huge because huge already describes the size of the TV, okay? So we can't say very huge. We cannot say extremely huge, okay? So strong adjectives, they don't normally have comparative and superlative forms, which is actually the upcoming lesson. We are going to talk about comparative and superlative. So here's another example. We can't say the hugest. We can't say huger than, okay? We can't say 1 Times Square building is huger than the Eiffel Tower, okay? So we can't use these examples with strong adjectives because they are already strong. Let's take a look at the 2 types of adjectives. So, normal adjectives, also known as simple ones, basic adjectives. Here are some words. So we have small, cold, tired, and bad. Okay? So these are called gradable adjectives. Normal adjectives, simple adjectives. So we can use modifiers. We can say very small or really cold or extremely tired. But did you know that these words actually become non-gradable adjectives? I can make these adjectives much stronger. So small becomes tiny. So let's imagine this is small, this is tiny, okay? We have cold becomes freezing. Imagine the North Pole, it's freezing out there. So the next one is tired. Sometimes you want to say that you are very, 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 very tired. You can't just say very, 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 okay? So you can just say exhausted. The last one is bad, bad. If you want to talk about something really, 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 really bad, you can just say terrible, okay? Terrible. So bad becomes terrible. Terrible is the strong adjective, and bad is the basic adjective, also known as the gradable adjective. Okay? So small, tiny, cold, freezing, tired, not tired, tired, exhausted, bad, terrible, or awful. W is silent, awful. Okay? Let's take a look at the next slide. This is an activity from the school book. It says, I replace the words between brackets with the appropriate strong adjective from the following list: lovely, exhausted, superb, starving, fabulous. In some cases, there is more than one possible answer. So in some cases, you can actually use 2 of the adjectives from this list, okay? So let's take a look at the paragraph. When I first saw Mykonos from the cruise ship, I thought, wow, this island is extremely beautiful. The weather was extremely pleasant. After a guided visit of the town, I felt extremely tired and extremely hungry. At the restaurant, the Greek salad and masuka dish were extremely tasty. Masuka is a traditional Greek dish. It looks like Italian lasagna, by the way. Okay? So, you have to replace the adjectives between brackets, which are basically modifiers plus adjectives, by a strong adjective from this list. Okay? So, we are going to correct this activity on the next video, so please do send the answers in the comments below, okay? Now, I guess this is goodbye for now. I hope this video was useful. If you liked the video, please click on the like button. Share the video with your classmates if it was useful. And if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to comment below or contact us on Facebook, on email. Madrassa is always at your disposal, okay? So this is a wrap up for now. I'll see you next time. Take care.